the hidden truth about aging hair that stylists won't tell you. The mirror doesn't lie, but sometimes it reveals truths we're not quite ready to face. Margaret had always worn her hair the same way since her 30s, long, flowing layers that cascaded past her shoulders. At 62, she noticed something disturbing. The compliments had stopped. Worse, she caught herself being overlooked at social gatherings, treated as invisible. What she didn't realize was that her hairstyle had become her worst enemy. Hair experts across the country are raising alarm bells about a silent epidemic affecting millions of women over 60. The problem isn't about vanity or following trends blindly. It's about understanding how dramatically our hair changes after this pivotal age, and how certain styles can actually accelerate the aging process rather than complement our natural beauty. Think of your hair as a living ecosystem that transforms completely around the 6th decade of life. The follicles themselves become smaller, producing strands that are finer and more fragile. The sebaceous glands that once kept your scalp moisturized begin producing less oil, leading to dryness you never experienced before. Even the growth cycle shifts, meaning hair spends less time in the active growing phase and more time resting or shedding. Celebrity stylist Marcus Chen, who has worked with A-list actresses through their aging journey, reveals something shocking. Certain hairstyles that once made you look youthful can suddenly add 10 to 15 years to your appearance after 60. The transformation happens almost overnight for some women. One day, you look in the mirror and see yourself as you've always been. The next, you're confronting a stranger who looks tired, dated, and somehow diminished. The culprit? Often it's the very hairstyle you've trusted for decades. Consider texture changes that occur deep within each strand. The medulla, or innermost layer of your hair shaft, begins to hollow out. The cortex loses protein structures called keratin, which give hair its strength and elasticity. The cuticle, that protective outer layer, becomes rougher and more porous, unable to reflect light the way it once did. This means your hair literally loses its shine, its bounce, its ability to hold styles the way it used to. What worked beautifully at 40 becomes a limp, lifeless frame around your face at 65. Understanding these changes is crucial because they affect everything about how your hair behaves. Your favorite products stop working. Styling techniques that once took minutes now take forever and yield disappointing results. Colors fade faster. Perms don't hold. And certain cuts that once looked effortlessly chic suddenly look like you're trying too hard or, paradoxically, like you've given up entirely. The stakes are higher than most women realize, affecting not just appearance but confidence, professional presence, and social dynamics in ways both subtle and profound. 2. The dangerous styles that betray your age. The consultation room fell silent as Dr. Helena Schwartz, renowned trichologist and hair health specialist, pulled up before and after photographs on her screen. Each image showed the same woman, but the transformation was startling. In one version, she looked vibrant, contemporary, approachable. In the other, she appeared older, out of touch, almost invisible in her ordinariness. The only difference was the hairstyle. The first dangerous style that experts unanimously condemn for women over 60 is the one that seems safest: long, straight hair worn loose past the shoulders. Your instinct might tell you that longer hair is more feminine, more youthful. After all, we associate short hair with elderly women, don't we? But here's the devastating truth that stylists see every day. As hair ages, it loses density and volume from the roots. When you grow it long, gravity pulls whatever thin strands you have downward, making the situation dramatically worse. The result? Hair that looks stringy, sparse at the crown, and draws the eye downward, emphasizing jowls, neck wrinkles, and drooping facial contours. Think about the physics involved here. Each strand of aging hair weighs less than it used to because it's finer and more porous, yet you're asking fewer follicles to support greater length. The scalp becomes visible through the hair, particularly at the part line and crown. From certain angles, especially under bright lighting, the effect can be shockingly unflattering. Master stylist Carmela Rodriguez explains it this way. Imagine trying to create the illusion of a lush garden with half the flowers and twice the empty space. The longer the hair, the more obvious the gaps become. The second style that experts beg women to abandon is the severe, blunt bob cut at exactly chin length. This classic cut was revolutionary when popularized by fashion icons, and it works beautifully on younger women with naturally full, thick hair. But after 60, your facial structure has changed. You've likely experienced some bone loss in the jaw and chin, changes in fat distribution that create hollows under the cheekbones, and skin laxity that alters your profile entirely. A harsh, blunt line hitting right at the jaw creates an unflattering horizontal division that draws attention to exactly what you want to minimize. Instead of looking sleek and modern, you end up looking severe, masculine, or simply dated. The third treacherous territory involves the helmet hair syndrome, that overly styled, lacquered, unmoving coiffure that seems frozen in time. Perhaps you remember your grandmother with hair that didn't move in the wind, sprayed so heavily it might survive a hurricane. Today's version is more subtle but equally aging. It happens when women over 60 become so anxious about their thinning hair that they overcompensate with excessive products, aggressive teasing for volume, and styles that look artificial rather than natural. The irony cuts deep. The more you try to control and perfect aging hair, the older and more desperate it appears. 3. The science behind why these styles fail. The laboratory hummed with quiet intensity as researchers examined hair samples under powerful microscopes. What they discovered would revolutionize how we understand the relationship between hairstyle choices and aging appearance. The evidence was incontrovertible, captured in detailed imaging that showed exactly how hair structure changes at the cellular level after age 60. Dr. James Whitmore, whose research on aging hair has been published in dozens of peer-reviewed journals, explains that the problem begins deep within the scalp itself. The dermal papilla cells, which are responsible for signaling hair follicles to produce new growth, become less responsive to growth factors as we age. Blood circulation to the scalp decreases by approximately 30% between ages 40 and 70. This means fewer nutrients reach the follicles, resulting in hair that grows more slowly, with less pigment, and with a fundamentally altered structure. When you choose a hairstyle that requires thick, healthy hair to look good, you're setting yourself up for disappointment because the raw material has fundamentally changed. Consider the role of hormones in this transformation. Declining estrogen levels after menopause don't just cause hot flashes and mood changes, they dramatically impact hair growth patterns. Estrogen is crucial for maintaining the anagen phase, which is the active growth period of the hair cycle. When estrogen drops, hair spends less time growing and more time resting or shedding. This creates a cascading effect where hair becomes progressively thinner and shorter over time. Meanwhile, the relative increase in androgens, even though absolute levels might be declining, can trigger a phenomenon called androgenic alopecia, where hair loss follows a male pattern baldness trajectory, particularly around the temples and crown. The textural changes go beyond simple thinning. Aging hair becomes increasingly porous, meaning the cuticle scales that normally lie flat and smooth begin to lift and separate. Imagine roof shingles that have weathered decades of storms. They no longer fit together perfectly, allowing moisture and air to penetrate. This increased porosity makes hair more vulnerable to damage from heat styling, chemical treatments, and even brushing. It also means hair can no longer hold styles the way it once did. Curls fall flat within hours. Straight styles develop unwanted waves and frizz. The very predictability you rely on disappears, leaving you frustrated and your hairstyle looking unkempt by midday. Here's where style choices become critical. When you select hairstyles designed for thick, elastic, healthy hair, you're working against your hair's natural capabilities. Long styles require body and movement that thinning hair simply cannot provide. Blunt cuts demand density that no longer exists. Intricate updos need volume and texture that have vanished. It's not about giving up or settling for less, it's about understanding the material you're working with and making intelligent choices accordingly. Think of it like architecture. You wouldn't design a skyscraper using the same principles as a small cottage. Different structures require different approaches, and ignoring these fundamental differences leads to catastrophic results. 4. The transformation. What actually works after 60? The transformation began not with scissors, but with understanding. Patricia, at 67, had spent 2 years feeling progressively more invisible, more frustrated with her appearance, more certain that nothing could help. Then she walked into a consultation with stylist Andre Beaumont, who had built his reputation on helping mature women rediscover their beauty. What happened next changed everything. The golden rule that experts universally embrace is this: hair should end between the chin and shoulders, with strategic layers that create movement without sacrificing body. This length strikes a perfect balance, short enough to appear full and healthy, long enough to maintain femininity and styling versatility. The layers are crucial because they remove weight without creating thinness, allowing hair to spring back from the scalp rather than hanging limply. Master colorist Sarah Chen explains that this length also provides the perfect canvas for color placement that creates dimension and depth, making hair appear thicker than it actually is. Texture becomes your greatest ally after 60. Soft waves, gentle curls, or even a subtle bend at the ends creates visual interest and the illusion of volume that straight hair can never achieve. This doesn't mean returning to the tight perms of previous decades. Modern texture techniques use larger rods, gentle solutions, and strategic placement to create movement that looks natural and effortless. Even if you opt against chemical processing, styling products and techniques can introduce waves and texture that transform flat, aging hair into something vibrant and contemporary. Think of how water looks when it's still versus when it's rippling. The movement creates complexity that draws the eye and suggests depth. Face framing layers represent another revolutionary approach that experts champion enthusiastically. These precisely cut pieces around the face serve multiple purposes simultaneously. They draw attention upward toward your eyes rather than downward toward the neck and jawline. They create softness around the face that flatters changing facial contours. They provide built-in styling that requires minimal effort yet delivers maximum impact. Celebrity stylist Marcus returns to this concept repeatedly. The right face framing can take years off someone's appearance because it creates a customized frame that highlights their best features while gently camouflaging areas of concern. Color strategy transforms from simple maintenance to sophisticated artistry. Gone are the days of single-process color that leaves you with flat, monochromatic hair. The future involves dimensional coloring with highlights, lowlights, and subtle tones that create depth and movement. Lighter pieces near the face brighten the complexion and catch light beautifully. Darker pieces underneath add richness and the illusion of density. The key insight that separates amateur results from professional excellence is this: aging hair cannot be one uniform color and look contemporary or youthful. The dimension must be there, strategically placed to work with your natural features and hair growth patterns. The final element involves embracing asymmetry and modern finishing techniques. Perfectly symmetrical hairstyles can look rigid and dated. A slightly longer side, an off-center part, or subtle variations in length create contemporary edge that signals you're current and confident. Finishing products have evolved dramatically, offering lightweight options that add shine, control frizz, and create texture without the heavy, sticky feel of traditional hairsprays and gels. The goal is hair that looks natural, touchable, and alive, not shellacked into submission or desperately trying to recapture youth that has passed. When Patricia looked in the mirror after her transformation, she didn't see someone trying to look younger. She saw someone who looked sophisticated, contemporary, and authentically herself at 67. That's the true power of getting your hairstyle right after 60.